Hello, it's Brad Laurie, or Blockchain Brad, and today we're speaking about all things Kardiachain. We've done this before, and this is an exclusive update for you. And on behalf of all those wanting to know more, we welcome the CTO and the co-founder, Hui Wen. Thank you very much for your time, Hui.
Thank you very much, Brad. It's an honor to be here and speak to the community again.
Likewise, mate. Now, in the name of transparency, it's important for you to know that I do own some Kai tokens, and also that this is an entirely free interview. So the objective is to be informative and also to be objective and ask those questions that we need to know about updates and development. So the agenda obviously is to find out how things are developing. Let's start again for those perhaps who are new to Kardiachain for a start, and find out the fundamental what of what you are in a nutshell, so that we can start at that point and move forward in the updates.
Sure. Thank you, Brad. So for anyone who haven't heard about Kardiachain again, we are a blockchain company that try to bring the accessible blockchain for the millions. We started from UK and US, Silicon Valley, and we moved back to Vietnam last year, 2019, 2020-ish, to start our mission to bring blockchain to the mass, starting in Vietnam and Southeast Asia. So we are building a blockchain platform, a smart contract-based platform that you can think of similar to Ethereum, for example, but is a lot cheaper, at least 10,000 times cheaper, faster, and target specifically for the local population and local businesses. So our mission is to make sure that we can bring millions of Vietnamese population onto blockchain. What we call a blockchain noise, Vietnam. So we have good relationship with a lot of enterprise and governments in Vietnam, and we started to integrate them into our Mainnet, which is launched late last year.
I see. I want to just ask you, obviously you mentioned that you are your own layer one, assumably, given that you are your own blockchain technology, you have your own tech stack. Now, a question I wanted to ask was, why do that? When we see the likes of Ethereum, for example, come forth with their own technology, when people read into you, and we've talked about this before, there is a very unique tech stack and tech design that you have underneath. There's the blockchain engine. So why do that? Why add that layer of complexity in when you could have technically utilized the benefits of another blockchain platform?
So Kardiachain started. It is a great question, right? I think many people ask that. So when we started like 3 years ago in 2018, actually there wasn't that many, blockchain platforms out there. Cosmos and Polkadot, for example, were just started as well. Ethereum was pretty much the major smart contract platform at that time. So when Kardia started, our patent pending technologies, our most innovative technology is the interoperabilities. Through the dual node technology concept. So in a nutshell, Kardiachain can connect multiple blockchain together and through our Kardiachain in a non-invasive way. So we have a demo late 2018 where we have the first DEX that can actually send the token across Neo, Trons, and Ethereum. So with that said, we have to start from scratch. We have to start from the most fundamental layer, like the peer-to-peer network, the whole consensus, the whole database, and the way the logic works to allow us to implement our own dual node. That was a short answer of sort of like why we did that before, because there was nobody did that at that time. And with time, we continue to grow our ecosystem, the dual node fundamentals. But at the same time, we see a unique opportunity to apply that also across the private chain and blockchain solution. When we go back to Vietnam, and most of the companies would like to have their own private blockchain, right? But at the same time, they want to talk to other businesses. So then we fine-tune our solution a little bit to adapt to the local need and make Kardiachain not only a public chain of choice, but can also connect many different private blockchain, public blockchain together.
Yes, and obviously you mentioned the key word, and that's enterprise. At the moment, we see a lot of discussion about the value proposition of permissionless private systems, and I stress the permissionless aspect. How do you embed privacy, given that you do need that arguably when you're bringing in these enterprises who wouldn't just simply entertain the idea, I would imagine, of working with a blockchain that's public by default. And we see now some of the struggles perhaps of Ethereum in that respect as they try to build in privacy for that enterprise component, as we see with the likes of the baseline protocol and other initiatives to try and strengthen the relationship between public and enterprise when it comes to blockchain.
So based on our own experience, when we try to sell the solution to many real businesses, like small and medium-sized businesses, also corporations and even government, we see that not always privacy is the only concern or requirement. There are so many things that is actually not the case, even though that's what you hear, on a daily basis in the crypto world. Many of the solutions we're building right now is just pure public blockchain. So for example, they want traceability. When they have a product, they want to be able to trace it all the way back to the origin, right? So when we sell the solution to them, at first they also want to build a private blockchain per se, and then they can keep certain things private. But after discussion goes on and materialize, they realize that it's actually much better if everything is just on the public chain. Those are one example of it's much cheaper, right? Because they don't have to maintain their own server. They have a much more transparent way to show to the world. Sure, there will be cases where there is a mix of private and privacy concern, in which case we'll just sell the same Kardiachain, package to them, but then let them run in public. Then with the same dual node concept and the same, network stack that we build, it just natively pen into the public chain. And then they can just, show any information they want, and they can hide the rest to the hash algorithm that we built, and still can get the right confirmation.
So you do cater for, somewhat of a private mechanism or a privacy mechanism built in if they so chose. Now, I want to go back to Vietnam for a moment, because you are obviously from there. Much of the dev team is there as well. And it's one of the hubs of the world when it comes to innovation, when it comes to technologists who have the skill sets to build blockchain platforms out. Others we see, for example, are in India. We see a lot in Berlin. And obviously, in a decentralized fashion, there's experts around the world doing some amazing work. But that's one of the reasons why I first spoke with you at Kardiachain, is that I knew about the number of devs that were there. Now, if we wanted to go and check the code as part of the update, for example, would we be able to? What's the state of the code? What's the state of the GitHub? I've had a look at some of the repositories now, but how much of it is open source?
So the whole public code for the mainnet, for the Kardiachain network per se, like the Kardiachain platform, is already public when we, as part of our mainnet release process, right? So the 100% of the platform code is currently open source and public. You can check it. We open sourced it like 2 months ago. As in the rest of the mobile app for the a wallet, right? And any Explorer or dual node code is also public as well. There are a few things that I would say like 50 to 60% of our code currently is public if you talk about the whole ecosystem, because there's still solutions that we build for government, for enterprise that we kept private. Also, there are templates that we build to incorporate more, DApp developers coming in. Those are not yet public because we don't think as the production state that they're willing to share. Also, there are also, development work behind the scenes, right, for the next versions, for more dual nodes coming in. These kinds of things is not yet public, but for everything that the user or the community currently use with Kardiachain today, they should be able to access the code very well.
Okay, so that's good. So there's transparency there, being open source for some of it, and as you mentioned, for some of the enterprise focus, some of it is not, for the reasons that you're building out a real business. Now, what about revenue? Before we touched on some of those key partnership developments that are growing, how's everything going with the revenue development and your runway so that you can sustain a viable business for the long term?
So, like as you probably know, we have some investment from the IEO platform, which we still able to function within. As in the revenue model, the way we build right now, if you know our progress lately, we have joined many different associations, the business association, government enterprise association, to try to set up a profile to make sure that the mission in 2021 is that all the blockchain solution for businesses in Vietnam will come through Kardiachain. Right? So we have multiple contracts going in right now. I would say it's more like a template that we build so all the businesses can follow. Right. So in 2021, the mission for the team will be to build four particular use case that businesses in Vietnam will focus on. And that four use case would be first tokenization, crowdfunding. So a lot of SME business would like to have a way to raise fund, right? And to get the crowdfunding fund. And that would go through tokenization, and that will go to digital money. That's a lot easier to collect and rise, especially in a country in Vietnam where the large population still doesn't have bank. Right? So that is actually an easy way to have. Second thing is traceability, which is a big thing right now. You can do limited edition, you can do traceability, you can do NFT, that sort of thing. So that is a second use case. The third one would be loyalty, where each business can have their own discount vouchers and things. And they can start exchanging to other businesses. And the fourth one is the hardest one, but is a more exciting one, which is a DID. I already wrote an article in Cointelegraph about how DID, decentralized identification, can help, right? So think about you don't have to do the 2FA, you don't have to do the OTP anymore. Once you know your identity is owned by you, is controlled by you, and stored safely on blockchain. So anywhere you go, just a scan through your DID, you could be able to expose very well whatever you want about yourself. And the other part, you can just check in no time.
I noticed also in that respect, just to jump in there with regard to your partners, Ontology, as I understand, is a partner, and they have a lot of experience with DIDs. And we also see across blockchains platforms that DID is on sort of the agenda for many of them to make sure that they do have that technology available for applications, for use cases. Now, enterprise, let's go back to that, because it's one thing to have the tech stack done. The devs, you explain, are busy working, continuing to make sure they protect the integrity of the Kardiachain code. It's another thing to really fire the engine when it comes to applications, to use, and even just having that protocol used out in Vietnam. So do you want to start there? Let's start with government. You mentioned that before, and then we'll go across to enterprise perhaps, because the government's the hardest perhaps to entertain and convince to use and experiment and tinker with the blockchain. And you've gone a lot further than that. So let's start there, and we'll go right across and cover everything since we last spoke about the real deal partnerships, the real things that are happening, and the real innovation.
Right. So government in Vietnam come through many forms, right? So you could work directly with the minister of something to build something, right? For the national government, you can do it for regional government, you can do it for city government, right? So and it could also come in the forms of a company set up by a government or owned by the government. So it's pretty much a private company get backed by government. So the way, so we started in 2019 with at least three things with the government. One is with the Department of Justice. One is with a smart city in Da Nang, and a third one is with Viet football. Federations, right? So that was a three use case. That would be at first one for education, one for justice, and one for football entertainment. As time goes, we realized that it is very hard to move the stage at the national level, and I speak as like a minister of thing. So we learned that lesson in 2020. We really focus on building applications for one particular thing. So in all the three cases, we come up with an MOU, we come up with some form of a prototype demo, but it's very hard to push it into the mass. Right? So we come back and we learn the lesson. We build the Kai membership apps today. which is our holy grail to reach the mass adoption. We have more than 100,000 users at this point, and we bring that back to them to all of the government, and then we try to build the particular need of the solution on top. For example, for the football federation today, we would partner with them to try to bring in the real information of the user to the DID, helping them verify that for the fake name, fake age, to control the legitimacy of the football youth league team. That is one thing that we do. We also work with the national VTV cap, the media company, right, that control the most famous app of sport in Vietnam. We bring in the tokenization model over there for people to learn how to use blockchain, to learn how to own a wallet, and in a way bring the adoption through the government influence.
Right.
That was right.
Well, Pui, I wanted to just jump in because that was something that we spoke about, or I've spoken with a colleague of yours when I spoke with Kardiachain last time. So what I'm trying to learn is what's happened since with regard to government interactions with Kardiachain. Surely there's more than that, because if those conversations have been had and if those partnerships have been forged back when I spoke with you last, I would imagine that there's more interest from the government sector that in verticals we don't know about, perhaps that you could illuminate or illustrate now, because we want to make sure that the government interest is growing in Vietnam, since you do have so many devs who are very blockchain savvy and currently coding.
Sure. So seeing the Mainnet launch is a different story, because now most of the traffic and the user can be seen on the Mainnet side. So we slow down the apps development per se toward the fourth quarter of last year, so we can focus on the whole Mainnet, right? So the engagement with the government in different level is still there. It's still the same, telco that we built for the DID solution for the mobile banking. It's still the same, on sport for the football, and it's still the same for the education. It's just that now we start to integrate and bringing them into our own mainnet platform and not through the Ethereum as before. And then people can observe the traffic coming in. More than that, we have a few discussion and talks towards some of the other front, but I don't think it's materialized enough to talk at this point.
Could you give us some hints? Just some hints of what it means, what vertical, what industry, how it's relevant.
So it falls back to the four focus that I said earlier, right? So it's gonna go more into the e-commerce and the agriculture side of things. So when you kind of try to do the traceability, the first thing Vietnam government really focus on is the agriculture, right? So the ability to trace back where the food originated, right? And then that would have them seal the deal with either EU or US to bring it on board, because they need a certain kinds of certifications on the products, right? So we're gonna start the template for the traceability for agriculture. And after that, the same concept, the same app, the same backend can be used for even more industry. But agriculture will be the first one to start with.
Well, that's good to know. What about supply chains?
DID is also right. So that's part of the supply chain. Like I should have just said supply chain, but traceability is one particular features of the supply chain. They're going to support the logistics, right? So the ability to trace everything helps a lot for the logistics supply chain, to name a particular one, right? So we will start with agriculture, but there is a long list of order, half government, half driving is waiting behind, so they can onboard when that solution is ready. And that was actually one of the requests from the association, the VCOM association that we joined, that we will provide a blockchain solution for.
That's great. That. So a long list of that partnership between enterprise and government is coming. Can you give us a bit of a roadmap on that? Not to FOMO, because I think a lot of people are tired of the hype cycles of trying to pump coins as influencers. This is more about real business and real things coming for Kardiachain as a platform. So what can we expect in 2021 with this rollout of the long list you mentioned?
Right. So we have it on our roadmap as well. We need to tune the update for a little bit, but Kardiachain really focusing on deliver the right product and keeping our promise rather than pump coins. So that is really not something I'm after. But in Q1, you will see the first tokenizations and the first part about crowdfunding platform tokenization, real estate particularly. You will see that in Q1 very soon. In Q2, you will start seeing the supply chain, as you say, but I call it like traceability solution that will be introduced in Q2. Q3 will be about loyalties, and Q4 will be a full on DID. That is a current roadmap.
Okay, so you have a lot going on with regard to partnerships and announcements with respect to enterprise mixed with government. Now let's go across to, you mentioned Mainnet and all the applications and the work that's being done there. More broadly, what other things do you want to say specific to development, specific to developers tinkering, and even some of the perhaps tokenized applications that might be building on the platform itself since you're layer one?
So let me start by give sort of the high level of approach that we try to do. So you can see many blockchain platforms out there that really struggle to find the real usage, that really struggle to find the traffics that are coming in. So when we view Kardiachain, the goal is not to raise the most money, as you can see. The goal is not about to push as far as we can, but to grow steadily and bring in the target mass adoption that we want. So in 2021, the level, the mission for the whole team is to bring in at least 10 million transactions total for 2021. And we're trying to reach a realistic goal of 1 to 2 TPS transaction per second, real transaction per second. And that's what we call 2020 is a build a foundation state. Now it's come to the 1 to 10 state. So the last year was 0 to 1. This year is 1 to 10. And if we can deliver that, we're going to shoot it up to 10,000 into 2022, right? So all of the focus, I told you, the 4 focus is to bring the adoption from the traditional business side. At the same time, we need to bring in the apps developer, bring in games, bring in whatever thing that make the crypto space people excited and join our ecosystem. Right. There is another front that we're striking. So there are 2 unique selling points that we gonna sell to the rest of the world. One is that we are cheap, very, very cheap up to the point that is almost free for most of the people. If you ever use our Mainnet, you will see that it's a 3 to 5 second confirmation time with finalities. It is right now, it's actually almost 100,000 times cheaper than Ethereum. So it's almost nothing when you use it. And it's fast too. It can support up to 6,000 TPS. So with the Kardiachain Mainnet alone, you could have done many things, and we're Solidity compatible. So all the Ethereum sort of the app can easily migrate to us, right? And we did that. So we already have a few applications running.
Well, let's talk about that. That's a big deal. And I guess I need to interrupt here because when you're faster, cheaper, more secure, and I'm not suggesting this in this instance, I'd love to hear your feedback actually, but let's say you are, then something the likes of pre-existing platforms. Now, we know Ethereum is one of the leading, or if not the first to iterate when it comes to smart contract platforms. But because of that, the reality is that technologists around the world and devs around the world will tinker, will innovate, will iterate. So they have. And now we see challenges to that DeFi sentiment or that DeFi narrative. So firstly, I want to ask you, do you think that you fit in the DeFi context or even in the decentralized business and decentralized initiatives for what you're building? Do you fit there just like Ethereum? And do you think that you're just as competitive, if not more, because you do port and you bridge into the Ethereum world and then offer your services through your tech?
Yeah, so of course I'm confident that we can do that. Indeed, you will see a DeFi coming soon to Kardiachain as well. Our goal is to bring the whole the whole blockchain population in Vietnam to DeFi. So blockchain DeFi revolutions for Vietnam will need to come to Kardiachain. You already saw us partner with VNDC, the largest, Vietnam blockchain population with wallet with 800,000 users currently. So we want to, and then they will actually issue VNDC, the stablecoin for Vietnam, on Kardiachain by end of Q1. And then for Q2, they will start to bring DeFi, like DEX, like Swap into us. And then Q3 will start all of all the cool thing like loan, peer-to-peer lend, and collateral and things like that. Right?
Okay, so DeFi is coming to Kardiachain specifically. So what are your thoughts on the idea that some platforms like Ethereum are almost trying to trademark DeFi, or some of the maximalists certainly are? Is DeFi a unilateral term? Is it something that can be used in a very open way across blockchains in a multi-chain scenario? Can you, as one of the key members and co-founder of Kardiachain, happily say you're DeFi also?
Yes, of course. I mean, apart from I tend to not jump into a lot of argument over the trademark of Ethereum for DeFi or the maximalist is thinking. I know that all the school of thoughts out there, right? We were just trying to deliver our belief, and we have a very clear vision of how to get there. We would try to do it to get it productionized and let the user decide it. So for example, let me tell you today, most of the Vietnamese crypto trader is not really enjoying the real DeFi anyways, because they usually go through some centralized place like VNDC, right? And then VNDC who use Ethereum to do the DeFi for the people, because majority of the people doesn't know how crypto works and how blockchain works anyways, right? The real people who actually use DeFi today, I would say, is less than 10% of the cryptos people, right? Our crypto populations, not to even mention the whole big population. So we want to tap on the non-crypto people and teach them how to use DeFi through something that they can see and experience right away.
Makes complete sense. And you always have been user-driven and enterprise-driven at the same point, which makes sense because the users and the enterprise go together to make money for the enterprises, and you are that technology stack to do this. I guess as the go-to point for both parties. Now, how do you do this, and what are you doing with regard to breaking down Kardiachain so it's simple and easy, and perhaps even invisible as a blockchain platform for users in Vietnam, so that they can focus on the suite of applications? That's where it gets really exciting, when they don't know about the blockchain, and they don't need to know, but what they do get is a service or an app or something that's of value to them that then adds value to you and the enterprise related to it.
So the way we're doing that is we provide a blockchain module, and that is a story to tell. We just provide a template, sort of like a library, a module to any current centralized app out there. And all you have to do is to integrate our module into your apps. We are not forcing or asking. So the team of Kardiachain is always about non-invasive, non-interference to whatever other people is doing. We're telling you that blockchain is going to bring transparency. So there's always something that people want with transparency. We provide a library. You add it in, and what you see is your transaction go through right into our blockchain, public blockchain with a TX ID that you can easily go and search online. And whether you understand it or not, there would be more tools to have people realize it. But we make it very easy, like zero initial investment cost to join our ecosystem. Let me give you one perfect example is all of the water bottles gonna have, for a particular partner that we have, gonna have a QR code. And then every time you scan it, they already have a library that integrates to Kardiachain and generate a transaction in Kardia that point to where it is. We didn't have the UI yet, but that is just a matter of time. All people have to do is to scan it as you feel fit, and then you will see the whole TX with all the event over there. And assuming we'll have the UI ready at some point, it will just show you very well where the things go, all on public blockchain.
Okay.
Rather than a private blockchain.
Right. And that's where the traceability comes in. That's where the value of supply chains, even as you alluded to before, all of that relates to the value proposition of the blockchain itself. Now, let's go back again. So I'm trying to dig as much as I can out of you with regard to specifics of really
DeFi.
not just DeFi, because we know that's an agnostic and very universal term, but really in terms of translating that into proof of growing your ecosystem through these applications. Because, for someone who owns Kai, I want to make sure that you're building, and for everyone else out there listening, they're thinking either using Kai for the way it's intended in Vietnam especially, or they're thinking, okay, because it's really building, then it makes sense for the investor to be thinking about the value of Kai there. So building wise, on that layer of especially the L2 stack, whether or not it's scaling, or more importantly, it's just those applications. Give us a bit more information about just how much is happening and iterating that you're aware of, especially given that you provide the service. So it can open up broadly. There's no controls. It could be any number of applications, but you would obviously know some of those key value and highly valuable experimentations and applications building on in that layer 2 world, so that it just really showcases that Kardiachain is very efficient, is working, is cheap, is secure. You'll attract more that way. So can you tell us a bit more about what you know about what is actually building?
So you're asking about what kinds of apps or apps that is building based on the Kardiachain, right?
Exactly. Or even if you want to mention on a tangent any enterprise geared initiatives as well, anything that we can hear where we can really tangibly see and learn that adds the value of the tech stack itself.
So by the end of Q1, of course, for the population of the DApp developers who build on Kai that we don't know, I don't have any comments on that. I'm sure there are people who's building right now. But for the two things that I can assure you, by the end of Q1, the two that I'm fully aware of, one would be the Kai membership, our own apps to tackle to the non-crypto people. All of the questions about NFT, you know that we have an NFT, we have an NFT game as well. All of that will be integrated into our apps. DeFi gonna go in. We have a Kai starter where people invested into Vietnamese business through Kai token. We're gonna put all of that, integrate fully all of that into our Kai membership. So the non-crypto people who use it will just have a one click, a one tap on things. I want to invest in this, right? This is how much Kai I have. Right away, it will integrate into our blockchain without them even knowing. The point is they don't need to even know about blockchain, but they actually joining the DeFi system.
And that's really exciting, because that's the way you get more mainstream people interacting with your token, because it has a utility built into it. How far reaching are these kinds of partnerships do you expect, given the feedback, the research you've done with regard to the in-house applications that you do have?
So, as I have said a little earlier, we have more than 100,000 users right now. By end of Q1, you will see that, because it's fully integrated into blockchain. You will see 100,000 of new wallets coming in with certain numbers of Kai. We tackle them through a gamification approach, and we went to university. We basically try to make everybody download it, even without knowing it is a blockchain sort of wallet as well. Then all of the partnership that you see, yesterday we have a partnership with Names, right? With Name Official, one of the big blockchain, top 20, I think. And they partner with us so they can integrate their name token into our Kai membership and open a gateway for them to enter Vietnam in general through airdropping, through advertising, and that kind of thing. We have ontologies already onboarded so that they can integrate their DID solution. So all of those people will get paid to disclose their information and use it to verify their own rather than going through the government. Right?
It's very smart. Very smart, because when they do that basic DID information, when they do those, so I guess basic building blocks for future applications that come on board and utilize the Kai token, most importantly, you'll have a lot of these people already engaged. You'll have them so that you can then start to explore different possibilities for each of the clients or each of the users. So smart move, I think, doing that.
We talked a lot about the strategy, the approach, in order to really bring the real value rather than just become a debt, beautiful, a tragic debt for a beautiful blockchain platform. So we compromise and we make a lot of partnership to bring the real value in. Even Theta, another big one that we have, they're gonna tokenize. They're gonna bring the token in for the people who like esport and start using it directly through our apps, right? So we just become a gateway to expose the non-crypto people to the beauty of the crypto world, and whether they realize it or not, it doesn't matter, right? They just need to tap in, and then we partner with the gateway, with the payment gateway, fiat gateway, like VNDC, right? So all of their users can come. They are the bank, and we are the entertainment place where they come in and start using their money, right?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. So basically, your partners, you're saying, and you're proving through the discussion that they are specifically geared for real partnerships, and they do real things, and are mutually beneficial. They aren't the kind that simply designed for hype, because we do see that in the space as well, where we see, especially, dare I say, in China, we see a bit of it. We see some of it in San Francisco with some of the things going on there. Different parts of the world are doing connections and hyping partnerships when they're not really that substantial. But yours, you're saying, really are geared for real purposes, to build out platforms, or to build out the interests of each party.
Right. So, yeah, of course, we were not trying to make hype partnership, and indeed it's very hard to approach much bigger blockchain than yourself if you don't come up with a proper proposition, right? There's no reason for Theta or NEMS or Ontology to partner with us if there is no real value that we bring in for them. And we also serious in our approach as well, because we are not trying to pump guy. I think one of the things our community is worried a lot is that we care less about the price than the real development. And then, to me, particularly as a technologist guy, I think that's the most important thing. Well,
let's talk about that, because I do care about the price, and obviously care about all the listeners who do care as well. So let's discuss that. Now, the token itself, often, even just more broadly, tokens don't tend to correlate with the innovation, because of the complexities of exchanges and speculation. All kinds of things happen in this dynamic world. But the token fundamentally is a utility token, if we remove the speculative aspect of this for a moment. So how do you foresee the future? You can't comment on price, but that utility should correlate with the more volume you have, with the more users and the user base, that increasing and all important growth in Vietnam and in arguably Southeast Asia.
Right. So I don't check price for once, and I don't know much about pricing or cryptocurrency in general. But one thing I know for sure is sooner or later, the price will have to correlate with the traffic, the real traffic that comes to the chain. That is a strong belief that I have. And that is why I do all of these, right? Maybe not at this time, maybe not during the boom season where everything just went up, but more like, I think Kardia do very well in bear market, where people have to slow down a little bit and then check for the fundamentals, right? But in my opinion, if we hit our goal of getting 10 million transactions total and one real TPS a day, the price of Kardia got the high right now. It is nowhere close to where it should be. It should be 10x, 100x higher, just by looking at the total transaction volume that you bring in, and the total volume that you bring in. Even without the rest of the world, I'm confident that if one of the 3 top goals we reach this year is a users, is a transaction, is a top 1 blockchain solution in Vietnam materialize, we have tens of millions, if not hundreds of million users in Vietnam today that we can capitalize, that we didn't, that no one has done that. None other blockchain platform, even Tomo, has tried to utilize this population.
Yes. And they're working hard to do the same. Yeah, so let's talk about that, because there's so much value in honing in on a specific region if you're really familiar with it. As you mentioned with Tomo, they did try to do the same, and I always thought that was smart, because if you know your region well, you know your user base, and you can work with that, why not? Because then you can really build that out into other regions, and in your case, Southeast Asia, and then the globe more importantly, but getting it right from the outset. So has that been challenging, or has it been very clear that you are building when you see the response of people in Vietnam?
So it is very clear in the mission and in the vision. It has been challenging in the execution. So I sorry, but I have to disagree a little bit on the Tomo side of things because Tomo and Kardiachain is quite closely working together. I think Long Bung is very clear in that he wants his project to globalize more than localize. So he started in Vietnam. He has a strong back from Vietnam as well, similar to us. But I think Long Bung Go has always been trying more, going global. Right. Whereas I was from Mountain View, California, and she was from UK. We come back to localize. So it's sort of like started the same place. We go in different direction, but we're helping each other. Right? We have a good collaboration model in general. But the execution is hard, and I understand why. Like even Long see the same issue because I don't know what is the right word to put. There's a lot that I have to learn when I first come back. A cultural shock. At first, right? When the local people, they don't have that much money. If they put in $5 into crypto, to them is already a significant amount of money, right? So we are moving the mindset from collecting a lot of money from a small population into collecting pennies from millions of users. So our focus changed, and you can see that the slogan has also changed from the interoperable blockchain, a blockchain of blockchain, to the accessible blockchain for the millions. We're not expecting to collect more than 100K or 200K of the populations over here, but we're going for the vast, right? And going for the vast is always hard. You need more education, you need more exposure, you need more hands to show them the way. And vast majority of that is even bankless, right?
And it's really smart that you say that, because if we look at the fundamentals, of any blockchain, that's one thing. We can talk tech all day about the code and all the different components of the complex nature of a platform like yours, a layer one. But the reality is there's no value to them unless they have the users. And we see that there's a dearth of users, real users, across all blockchains right now. Let's be real about that. So by you focusing on a specific region, that's where I pay attention, because you clearly value that and use users are paramount. So do you think that if you compare the number of users that you have compared to many of even the big name platforms out there, do you think you rank highly for real users?
Again, sorry that I don't check all of the other platform. I only check a few sample that we have. So we usually position ourselves against Ethereum, Cosmos, EOS, and
let's talk about that in that context, because they're big names. But again, going back, forgetting the big name of them, if we just talk about that comparison of users, do you think you're ranking right up there, even though you're not that well known?
So yes, so we definitely have higher users than the vast majorities of the blockchain platform out there. I don't want to name, but you probably even go to Binance and Coinbase and check some of the other smart contract platform and compare to the user that we have. So again, by 2021, we would need to have 1 million wallets in our platform, and we'll show it transparently through our Mainnet Explorer. That is our goal, right? Even if we fell short a little bit on that, we'll get somewhere between 500K to 1 million. So with that number, I think it should rank high. And we are not comparing to any other blockchain. We have a specific goal to try to catch up with EOS or Cosmos more realistically. So that is our goal, and that's the only thing we can control. Whether this bull run will create another millions of people coming in, that I don't know, right? But we will stick to the goal that we have.
It's a smart move by not doing the comparison and just focusing on yourselves. I really appreciate that answer. Now, what about beyond Vietnam? Now, the area very well, and you'd have those inter-country or even intercontinental connections, because you've come back from another region to Vietnam to build this. So is the vision long-term to break out of the borders of Vietnam and really showcase what you've done once you prove that Vietnam is covered and you're leading it in Vietnam for platform business?
So
platforms?
So we plan. So of course, the next one from Vietnam would be Southeast Asia, and you will hear us talking more about Southeast Asia than just Vietnam particularly. We were already testing the kind membership app out to Indonesia, Philippines, Burma, and Thailand already, and we start to test out the water and see where's the next country to go. Most of Vietnamese business is quite familiar with the concept of expanding regional, meaning Vietnam and the Asian. That's what they call for the Southeast Asian country. In 2021, our focus is Vietnam. It's very clear, and we'll not stir away from that for anytime soon. Maybe in 2022, when we have enough data collected, we will start looking into Southeast Asia, and maybe in 2023, 2025, you will see our foothold, everywhere there. Then, if you ask me, if we're still here for the next 5-10 years, it would not be immediate to cross continent to US or to Europe or to Australia yet. But our focus will be more than the developing countries, places like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nigeria is a big market that we look into too. So we believe that for those people, a cheap and efficient blockchain solution is better than very decentralized and very beautiful platforms.
Yes,
right.
I couldn't agree more.
So to answer your question,
well, just to go back to those countries you mentioned, they are also mobile phone, savvy. That's their sort of go-to for everything they do in their daily lives. It makes a lot of sense also because of the app aspect of this, the usability, the 24/7, the decentralized nature of this. All of that fits in with those kinds of regions of the world where there is arguably a huge market potential. So it's exciting to hear that you've tapped into that and planned that in your roadmap. But I wanted to pull it back and say, what excites you most now? If we could, obviously, because you have to go for another interview or for other stuff, what's the thing that really, hits at home for Kardia in 2021? For those who own Kai for whatever reason, what is it that really, in your opinion, showcases the value now and for what's coming, especially given that you would know things that no one else does?
So for me personally, and for the team particularly as well, it inspires us every day going to work and believe that we're doing something amazing, something that truly bring value to our homeland. Right? We do believe that blockchain will have to be here in 5 years and go really big. Right? Regardless of Bitcoin price, I have always believed that in 5 years blockchain will be everywhere. And then for sure, the cryptocurrency will have to explode. And we want to be the first mover in bringing that. And we're happy that we are on track to bring in that. Now, as in for investor and community, we know that people, we have very strong and loyal communities since when we're 10 times, 20 times, lower price. And they has always supporting us and be patient and stay with us. So all I'm trying to say is, we understand the desire of both our long-term investor, ourselves, and also the new investor eyes are coming in to us. We do our best to make sure that we have the right balance. We strike the right balance between the hype, the productivities, and the real value that we produce. We will eventually list in tier 1. So our biggest exchange right now is KuCoin. And people have been complaining a lot since they have the hack back in September. We have been trying to approach a few tier 1s, but it's getting harder due to the bull season just started. Then the tier 1 have a long list of projects that they are listing. But we truly believe that with our development, our result, our value, and a constant update from the team, you will see a tier 1s coming in. We would expect 1 or 2 in 2021.
So I don't mean to press, my apologies, but again, you mentioned that you do want to strike that balance, and hype is part of that, and respecting also those user supporters is what I like to think of, who are also the investors in the same breath. Now, they obviously want to hear, is there a marketing strategy, long term, and is there, those exchange listings? You mentioned there probably, but, is it more than probable? Because the reality is that a lot of teams do have sort of that understanding, or they are, someone in the team is consulting or working with these exchanges as well, because obviously liquidity matters, making sure that there's more reach as well. That makes sense for the purpose of the token, which is utility. Now, you're not paying for listings, I'm assuming, because that was a big problem in 2017. They cost a lot. So what's the process with listing? And also, what about marketing in concert with the listings?
So we used to have a problem with exposure late 2020. I don't think we have that issue that much anymore. It's more of the volumes and new user, new investor coming in rather than marketing. So I think we do find like the interview with you, a few articles on Cointelegraph did caught the attention, and we receive a lot of people asking where I can buy Thai pretty much every day in the communities. So I think an exchange listing is more of a pressing concern to new investor, because they don't want to go to coupon if they already have their exchange elsewhere. So we understand that. We try to solve that. But in general, marketing wise, we'll have the right strategy to balance out between the product that we built and the community. What is the second part of your question?
Well, you answered them both actually beautifully, the exchanges and the marketing. I guess the other thing too.
Oh, sorry, you did ask about whether we pay for the listing. So it's a sensitive subject. All I can say is we prefer not to pay, or we prefer to have the right negotiation deal because of the real value we bring in. But these kinds of negotiation works well during bear market than in bull market, where people will just capture a lot of money, throw in, do pump and dump,
because it gets expensive. Out, right? The price would go up probably too.
But we don't lack fun. If that is the main concern, it is not Kardiachain's issue. If it is a quality listing, we do pay for listing. We are okay to pay for listing.
Well, thank you for being transparent. Thank you for being transparent about that. I mean, we don't get that all the time from a co-founder, and it gives us more trust when people are real with us. Now, obviously, marketing, you mentioned that's important. You've mentioned listings are coming. You've also indicated that when it's necessary, they have to be paid. But at the end of the day, the thing that you've really made it clear is that the volume and the users are really what's going to correlate and drive more of this interest in Kai, not just in Vietnam, but as you build out. So let's finish off with that, as the more important comment, because you have things in place that satisfy the speculator too. So what is your vision for the rest, aside from those estimates of volume and users? What excites you most, perhaps, in terms of real business, real applications, and real development for Kardiachain as you move forward?
So of course, the vision, the KPI for success to Kardiachain would be this usage on our chain, right? The more business adapting to blockchains, the more apps that start to use our module, the more exposure that people knows about Kai in Vietnam. Is all considered as success for us, right? The more new media outlet that advertise for Kardiachain solution, asking more business to join, the more we come sort of like association that want us to join and do lectures about blockchain. All of these things will be quantified in some way, and we want to see all of those numbers growing healthily in 2021.
Fantastic. So let's take time forward, if we can, play the devil's advocate, I suppose. And let's say that we've pushed right to the end of 2021 and we're at the cusp of 2022. What do you see, if you look back? What do you think is going to happen for Kardiachain, especially for those who've already invested their time, resources, energy, development, right across the board from anyone involved in Kardiachain? What do you think is going to happen this year in a nutshell?
To the end of 2021.
Yeah, because that's better to have those more realistic estimates. If you look back, what do you think you'll achieve?
So we will definitely achieve some good amounts of transaction using our chain. We will definitely seeing some of the use case being materialized and the business is using them. We definitely see that Kardiachain grow. That's the most important. Grow both in value, both in experience, and both in the brand or marketing that people are aware. we will see more people knows about Kardiachain and understand what we do, which is not easy. And to me, and for myself also, it will be a growth. It's quite a heck journey that you have to go through in order to grow. And to me, those are the most important things.
It's great to know. So obviously announcements will come. You have a media arm as well. So as these partnerships are forged, real businesses are made and move from MOUs into real, I guess, public knowledge, you'll let us know throughout the year.
Right. We will have a very active, Twitter channels and communities. And of course, I will let you know, and we might see each other back again in half a year and see where we go.
Absolutely. And I really respect you for your time. I know we've gone over. Thank you again for everything in explaining very transparently how you've been building. It's been some tough questions. We've even discussed the token, which is important. But at the end of the day, what's very clear is that you are a layer one that's building for use. You are a service essentially for those who want to tinker, for the devs as well, and they are there open source to utilize the platform. But you also have that in-house interest in building our business too. Governments you've mentioned are still happening, and there's a lot more coming for announcements. And most importantly, you are taking the speculative aspect of this seriously to uphold the integrity of your system by valuing marketing, by valuing the output of information consistently throughout the times that you are building, which is years, not months. So congratulations for everything you've been building. I hope this was not a shill in any way, because that's not my intention. But as I said, I do own Kai, and I do also like to make sure we do those updates with the founders. That's what matters, is hearing from them. They're accountable to their own teams. And certainly we stood up today and said, we are the real deal. We're from Vietnam and we're building the best we can. So Hui, is there anything you'd like to say to finish off for this update?
I just like to say thank you very much, Brad. I know you have been a true believer of Thai even before we actually go public and have a few interviews. We do treasure your insight, your input, your questions. Those are tough. And I like you because all of your tough questions, like every time we have interview with you, there's some tough questions coming in. But that's good. That have us realize and reflect on what we have done. Thank you very much. And yeah, I would like to thank you, the community, for always supporting us. I hope for the best to everyone.
You're very welcome. Once again, for all of you, make sure you check out Kardiachain with regards to social information, the social networks and the social channels. I'll put them down below for you. But most importantly, as Quiz explained, it's all about having that transparency. It's all about community. And to all those who've been those active participants, especially through the bear, it's what you are, what makes, you are what builds the integrity of the systems. You are what upholds the initiatives, and you make it possible for devs to continue their work, and also for the executives and for the members of the team. So you do need to be acknowledged for your role in this. Again, thank you for your time today. And I definitely will catch up for those announcements that do come through to find out what they mean, even if they're short snippets, to make sure that development and innovation is relevant and important as you continue for the years ahead. So thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Brad. See you soon.
Thanks, mate.